It's been a busy couple weeks on the homestead. We've been working on a few big projects, and we're finally almost done installing the well. The well has taken us much longer than we had hoped. I thought we would have had this done in a few days' time, but we ran into several issues that we did not anticipate. The temperatures have been dropping pretty quickly, so I've been cleaning up the gardens and preparing for the cooler months ahead. It's hard to believe it's nearly the end of October. The leaves have been falling, and I've been enjoying every moment of fall. It always seems to go by so fast before we begin to see snow. The leaves have been creating a blanket on our land, covering just about every inch of grass. I've been using some of them in the gardens as a mulch. Using organic plant matter such as grass clippings, compost, mulched leaves, and straw as a mulch is one of the best things that you can do for your soil. It breaks down over time and adds nutrients back to the soil. It also conserves water and acts as a barrier against weeds.
This kind of makes you feel like a kid again, playing in the leaves. So I'm taking a lot of these leaves that have been falling from this tree and many of the trees along our property since we live in the middle of the woods, and I'm using this to mulch my beds that are done for the season to protect the soil and protect it during the winter. So this is what I'm doing today. So there's quite a few beds that I've been covering already, but I'll show you what I've been doing. Since we live in the woods, it's really nice to have this natural resource around us to mulch our beds with. So we're just taking what is naturally occurring here at this time of year and using that in the gardens. Just like as if the trees were here and would be falling, we do have a couple trees in the garden. They don't really produce a lot of leaves during the season. So some of the leaves have fallen off these trees, but not much more will, if at all. So I've been taking some from other parts of our property and putting the leaves throughout the beds. And this side is practically done. I'm going to be pulling more of this comfrey for the chickens and preparing even more of these beds for winter. The chickens love the comfrey, so I'm just kind of cutting down each comfrey plant that I have and feeding that to the chickens, which is a really nice way for me to utilize that. Otherwise, it's going to just go directly into the compost.
I'll also use more of the leaves to create leaf mold. Leaf mold is what you get from letting leaves sit and decompose over time. It's another form of compost and an excellent free soil amendment. It's dark brown to black and has an earthy, crumbly texture. It's easy to make, simple to use, and helps keep your soil healthy. The decomposition process for leaves takes at least 6 to 12 months, but it doesn't require a lot of work, which is why I love it. Plus, being out in the middle of the woods, we have a ton of trees and leaves. So it's a great way for us to use what we already have in the garden. To make it, you can either pile your leaves in a corner of the yard or into a wood or wire bin, making sure that the pile is at least 3 feet wide and tall. Then you dampen the pile with water and let it sit. That's it. You just want to check on it time to time to make sure that the pile doesn't get too dry and add more water if needed, but it's that simple. I recently hosted a local garden tour of my homestead. It was quite a large turnout of about 50 people, more people than I had anticipated. Afterward, I realized that I should take some measures to energetically cleanse and protect our property here. Smoke clearing or performing a smudging ritual are common ways to clear any negative energy from the sacred space of your home, and using crystals and stones to create energetic boundaries is a great way to protect it. Ancient cultures have done rituals like this for many years, and some cultures still do. I chose to create my energy grid during a full moon. I first gathered all of my stones using a variety of different ones that are great for absorbing any negative energy and transmuting it into positive energy. Some of these included black tourmaline, selenite, black onyx, smoky quartz, and I even used some shungite stones. I cleansed my stones in water and burned sage to cleanse my land, my crystals, and my digging tools. Then I closed my eyes and thought about my intention with the stones. I even talked to them. You can do this with regular stones and rocks that you gather around your property too, asking them to take on the energy of the crystals that are known for providing powerful protection. In fact, I had many of those on hand, so I also used some of those stones as well for my grid. I started in the front of my property near the entrance to my drive and worked my way back. I dug a small hole in the ground and placed some of the stones inside the hole, covering it back up with the earth and repeating the intention in my mind and in my heart. I repeated the process, circling around my property, and even addressed all the doorways and walkways to my home. Doing this helps protect the energy that I am cultivating here on our homestead. Energy is in everything. It's all around us all the time. We can't necessarily see it, but we can feel it. We can sense when something or someone makes us feel off, or when we feel uplifted and inspired. I am choosing to create the latter here and keep this little part of my world sacred. An energy grid will help do that. The well is one of the biggest projects we have taken on here on the homestead, mainly because neither of us have ever done anything like this before and aren't exactly the handiest with tools. But I believe that anything is possible and just takes a little bit of work and determination. Today you can learn just about anything on the internet, in books, and through the experience of doing. We did our research ahead of time and felt confident we could do it, figuring it out as we went along.
Down here, once we pound this in.
After getting about 10 feet of pipe and our well spike into the ground, we ran into a couple issues. Our drive cap got stuck. We tried everything to get this thing off, but it simply would not budge. We think it may have gotten stuck not only from the sheer force of pounding our driver onto it over and over again, but also because we left it on the pipe for a couple of days overnight. With the change in temperatures during the day still rising into the 80s and at night dropping into the 50s or 60s, the pipe may have expanded collectively resulting in our drive cap not wanting to come off. We used a couple pipe wrenches and all of our strength, and it wouldn't even budge, not even the tiniest bit. I felt completely gutted, but we weren't ready to throw in the towel just yet. A fan of the channel suggested using a torch on it, so we went out and bought a torch. Ideally, the heat from the fire would release some of the tension. Once we used the torch on our drive cap, we continued to use our wrenches and full body weight to try and loosen the cap. And it worked.
Oh my God, baby, you did it.
I was beyond excited, giddy and jumping around like a little girl.
Look at that. You only had to use every muscle in your body. Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was a big win for us and certainly worth celebrating. However, right after removing the drive cap, we noticed the pipe threads had been worn off. We needed to attach more pipe to this thing, and it definitely was not going to happen without any threads. So again, I felt defeated. We weren't sure what to do next and did more research trying to see if anyone else had experienced this before. Someone suggested a farm jack to pull the pipe out of the ground and replace the pipe with a new one. We figured it was worth a shot, so we tried setting up a jack. It was frustrating since neither of us had worked with a farm jack before, but there's a first for everything. We noticed that the jack wasn't pulling the pipe up, but rather beginning to bend it, and we definitely did not want that to happen. I suppose having over 10 feet of pipe into the ground using the jack was not the best way to handle this.
I feel awful. I feel like, why did we even do this to begin with? This is the exact same thing that it's like, clearly, this doesn't want to work.
Finally, many people suggested that we cut off the old threads and make new ones using a die cast. Another thing we've never done before, but we were open to anything that would help us complete this well. So we went out and got all the tools that we needed and used a reciprocating saw to cut off the top of our pipe where the bad threads were. We cleaned up any burrs, and now it's ready to be rethreaded. I'll share in my next video how we create new threads on the pipe and hopefully finish up this well. We've already hit water, so we're so close.
There's already water there. There's already water there.
There's never a dull moment when you take the big step in building a homestead. It's a journey into many unknowns, discovering new things and taking on new challenges. And while the process can feel frustrating at times, it's a beautiful feeling when you overcome something that felt so big or too hard to handle. It's in those moments that you discover more about yourself as well, that you can do more than you ever thought was possible. Sometimes we assume we can't do something, and it keeps us from even trying. When you're building a homestead, you're determined to try. And sometimes out of necessity, you have to just do. It pulls you out of your comfort zone and stretches you just enough so that not only do your gardens and homestead grows, but you grow too.
We did it. Holy crap.
You become stronger and more resilient, knowing that you can take on just about anything, and that anything is possible.